Fascinating story. It's great to have you in today. So his name, for many of you, you've not heard his name. In a couple, you will. He'll be the number one college football draft pick. His name is Drake Maye. He's a young man. He grew up in Carolina. He signed with North Carolina. Here's where it gets really interesting. There are a lot of rumors in the transfer portal that a couple of SEC schools, you can figure out the big boys down there, are willing to pay him $5 million a year to lure him out of North Carolina. So he's an unbelievable talent, 6'4.5", big arm. He's been compared to Aaron Rodgers. He's a bigger version of Aaron Rodgers. If the draft was held today and he was in the draft, he would be the number one pick right now in his class. And he's not eligible for 2 more years. There's a lot of Trevor Lawrence here. Trevor Lawrence, after his freshman year, would have gone number one. This kid would go number one if he was in the draft today. He's that good. Not sure why the Pittsburgh coach has a strong opinion about the North Carolina player, but the kid has said, I'm from Carolina. I love Carolina. My intention is to stay here. So if he left, I'd be fine with it. He wants to stay. New rule in college sports. Great gets paid. My entire life, especially in the last 10 years, college football coaches get paid $5, $6, $7 million a year. And about 70% of the time, you have to fire them and write a big check so they'll go away because they're incompetent. Schools write $20 million checks because they're not good. And then sometimes they are good and they bolt in the middle of a contract. And a university and boosters are stuck with a bill. So I'm supposed to be upset in 2022 with a legal transfer portal, NIL, that a kid makes $5 million a year potentially. By the way, he has not taken it, and these are only rumors. But Caleb Williams and Drake Maye are the 2 best quarterbacks in college football, according to all my sources in the NFL. If they were both available for this draft, Bryce Young at Alabama would go 3. Okay, these kids, Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, and potentially Bryce Young, I've got my questions about his size, are going to change franchises. They're going to make owners billions of dollars. Hell, the Phoenix Suns sold for $4 billion yesterday. You get the right quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, he'll take the Chiefs from $4.5 billion to $6.9 billion. And I'm upset because a college quarterback's going to get some money. Great college athletes, college football players, are the last young people to get paid. If you're a young musical prodigy, 12 years old, you can get paid. If you're a young entrepreneur at 15, 16 years old, you can get paid. If you're a young child actor at 8 or 9 years old, you can get paid millions. Even in sports, a kid can go from high school into pro baseball. It's legal. 18 years old, Bryce Harper, right into the minors. A college basketball player has to spend 1 year in college, but if he doesn't want to go to college, he can go to Europe, Australia, the G League, and make hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions if Nike or Adidas or New Balance or somebody gives him a shoe deal. But a college football player is the last guy that doesn't get paid. And it's kind of sad because it's the most violent sport with the most career-ending injuries between 18 and 22 years old. And it is the only sport that consistently makes any money in college athletics. So the college football player pays all the bills and gets none of the rewards. And I'm supposed to be upset because Drake Maye, who will take a billionaire in the NFL, who's worth $12 billion, his franchise is worth $7, he takes it to $10 because he can throw a football at a level that like 11 people on the planet can. And I'm upset with it? Good for Drake Maye. Good for Drake Maye. Good for Caleb Williams. The last young people in America that aren't getting paid until a year ago are college football players. The ones that get hurt more, that are asked to carry more. Anybody, tennis player at Stanford, I'm going to go pro. Golfer, University of Houston, I want to go pro. High school baseball player, I want to go pro. Basketball player, I don't even want college. You have to go to college in football for 3 years minimum, most go 4, where you're told the coach and the system are more important. I would say this to Pat Narduzzi and all the coaches in college football that are uncomfortable with this. Amazon is here. You don't have to go to a mall. It's 2022. It's not up for the rest of the world for wait to you. We're not going to wait for you to get it. We're not going to wait for you to understand the world. But college football players forever have been putting their body at risk. Everybody else gets paid. The prodigy, the entrepreneur, the tennis player. Yeah, find me all the tennis programs that are rolling in lettuce at college. They're all paid for by the football team. Good for Mr. Maye, Mr. Williams at USC, and for Bryce Young at Alabama. And oh, by the way, Drake Maye is already in school, crushing it, won his division. USC's Coliseum was empty a year ago. They were a 4-win team. Notre Dame sells out. Why? Caleb Williams. Pay him. It's time. All right, here's another one. Speaking of getting paid and quarterbacks. Russell Wilson getting paid a lot. And that contract really doesn't ramp up, I think, until next year. So Mark Schlereth at this network hosts a very popular radio show in Denver. And he said this week, and it made some news, that Brett Rypien, the quarterback for Denver, the backup, actually runs the offense much better than Russell Wilson. He said there's no question about it. Mark's got 3 Super Bowl rings in the NFL for over a decade. He's like, Brett Rypien's the better quarterback for this system. So there's a lot of questions about what in God's name are we supposed to do with Russell Wilson in Denver. Here's the problem. It has to work. There is no getting out of it. Number one, you gave up so much draft capital, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a 5th, that you have 1 more year of no good picks. Number 2, Denver doesn't even start paying for this thing, I believe, until next year. And the earliest you could wiggle out of it with the least amount of repercussions or punitive damage would be 3 years from this year, next year at this time. The first 3 years of this deal, starting next year, I believe it's next year, are just ugly. You could never get out of it. You could wiggle out of it about 4 years from this minute, and it would still be ugly, but not as punitive. So the best case scenario for Denver, there's 3 things you can do. Number 1, cross your fingers, hire a veteran coach, somebody who's done it before. Because even with Stafford to L.A. and Brady to Tampa, brilliant offensive coaches, McVay and Arians, stumbled initially with Matt and Tom. Tom was 7-5, needed a bye to get it right, and thank God the Falcons came to town a couple of times, right? They faced Atlanta down the stretch. I believe it was Detroit. Tom got momentum. They needed a bye week to get it right. Then they were off and rolling. Stafford had a couple of ugly, ugly games. Remember, early on in the first month and a half to 2 months, McVay was like, he's a wizard. I'm going to give him the offense. And he started throwing pick sixes, and they had to give him a run game and support and defense and, other things, ancillary things to help Matt Stafford. He needed help. And that's with McVay, and that's with Bruce Arians. So you're talking about Nathaniel Hackett? I should have figured out it was going to be bumpier. But if I was Denver, I would look at the Tennessee Titans as a roadmap. Because as much as I like Russell Wilson, I look around at Burrow and Herbert and Allen and Mahomes and Lamar. He's not that. Something happened. He's not that. Distracted, put on weight, won't listen to coaching. Russell's not that. So what do? You become the Tennessee Titans. You hire a really smart coach. You have an excellent defense. And you bolster your O-line and your run game. Remember, last year, with Mahomes, with Josh Allen, with Herbert, with Burrow, it was the Titans that were the number 1 seed in the AFC, the better conference. So there is a way. You got to get the coach right, and you got to hire somebody with experience. Number 2, sell off some of your defensive pieces, get the offensive line right, and draft another running back and cross your fingers, and go look at the Tennessee Titans. You probably won't win a Super Bowl, but you can be viable, sell out your stadium, get on TV, be interesting, make the playoffs, and give your fans hope. Mark Schlereth, I think he's right. J-Mac and I don't understand it. Perplexing. How do you go from a 106 passer rating for 4 years on average to awful? I don't get it. But the Titans are the way for Denver to win. Smart coach, defense, run game, lean downhill. Only thing you can do at this point. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.